Here's the thing nobody in the tea world wants to admit. The most complex, regionally specific, deeply interesting cup of tea you will ever drink doesn't come from a mountainside plantation in Yunnan or a boutique estate in Darjeeling. It comes from the ground under your feet, from the plants that are, right now, actively trying to reclaim your garden beds. What we call weeds, the plant world calls resilience. And resilience, as it turns out, has flavor. Today we're walking through 7 plants, all common across the continental United States, all considered weeds by your landscaper, all overlooked, all underestimated. And we are going to talk about how to find them, how to prepare them, and what they actually taste like. Not in a vague herbal remedy way, in a real, sensory, sit down and taste it way. Let's go. 1. Cleavers. Galium aperine. We start with cleavers because if you have a yard, a garden, a fence line, or a disturbed patch of soil anywhere in the United States, you almost certainly have cleavers and you've definitely cursed at them. This is the plant with the tiny hooked hairs that make it stick to your socks, your dog, your jacket, your life. It's clingy, it's everywhere, and it makes one of the most quietly complex cold infusions you'll ever drink. Here's the key thing about cleavers. Don't brew it hot. I know we're talking about tea, but cleavers is best prepared as a cold infusion, what some people call a solar tea or a moon tea, depending on your level of whimsy. You pack a jar loosely with the fresh, tender stems and leaves, cover them with cold water, and let it sit overnight in the refrigerator. What you get the next morning is something pale green and faintly mineral, with an almost cucumber-like quality on the front end and a clean, grassy finish that doesn't overstay its welcome. Flavor-wise, think of it as what would happen if green tea decided to take a very long walk through a spring meadow. There's a lightness to it that I find incredibly refreshing, especially in the early part of the year when it's at its most tender. The young shoots, harvested before the plant gets too fibrous and before it flowers, are the sweet spot. Once cleavers set seed and the stems start to toughen up, the flavor turns more bitter and the texture becomes unpleasantly coarse even for an infusion. Look for it in early spring, along fence lines, at the base of shrubs, anywhere the soil is moist and somewhat shaded. It grows in cascading tangles, and once you know what you're looking at, you'll see it absolutely everywhere. 2. Chickweed. Stellaria media. Chickweed is the plant that makes experienced foragers emotional. And I mean that in the best possible way. It's sweet, it's tender, it's cool season, which means it shows up in late winter and early spring, right when you are most desperate for something fresh and alive. And it disappears quietly in summer heat. It tastes genuinely like the garden smells after a light rain. For tea, chickweed works beautifully both fresh and dried, which gives it a versatility that a lot of fresh-only plants lack. Fresh, it makes a light, sweet, almost spinach-adjacent infusion. Soft, mild, with a slight green sweetness that I find incredibly calming. Dried slowly at low heat, or even air dried in small bundles hung upside down in a cool room, it develops a more concentrated flavor with a gentle earthiness underneath that sweetness. You identify it by its tiny white flowers. Each petal is so deeply notched it looks like 10 petals instead of 5. And by a single line of fine hairs that runs along one side of the stem, switching sides at each pair of leaves. That's the tell. Once you see it, you'll always be able to confirm what you're looking at. Chickweed grows in lawns, in garden beds, along the edges of paths, really anywhere with reasonably fertile soil and cool temperatures. It's one of the most widespread plants in North America, and it's completely edible from root to tip. Brew it at a lower temperature than you would a traditional green tea, around 170 to 175 degrees, and steep it for about 4 minutes. The resulting cup is soft and a little floral and asks absolutely nothing of you. It's the kind of tea you drink on a slow Sunday morning with a book in your lap. 3. Ground ivy. Glechoma hadaracea. Now we get into more complicated territory, and I mean that as a compliment. Ground ivy is not a subtle plant. It is aromatic and assertive and polarizing in the best possible way, and when I serve it to people who've never had it before, they can never quite decide if they love it or are fascinated by it. And honestly, that's kind of the ideal reaction to tea. Ground ivy is a creeping mint family plant with rounded, scalloped leaves and small purple flowers. It spreads along the ground in dense mats, often covering large areas of lawn or garden, and it releases a sharp, resinous, almost balsamic scent when you crush the leaves. That scent is the key to understanding what you're about to taste. Brewed as a hot tea, a small handful of fresh leaves and stems in about 1.5 cups of water, steeped for 5 to 7 minutes, ground ivy has a flavor profile that I can only describe as if oregano and mint had a very sophisticated child who grew up near a pine forest. It's herbal and resinous and faintly minty with a slightly bitter finish that somehow makes you want another sip rather than fewer. It's complex in the way that good wine is complex. It unfolds in layers. Historically, ground ivy was one of the most important bittering agents for ale in Europe before hops took over, which tells you something about the depth of flavor packed into those small, unassuming leaves. It was called ale hoof, and entire economies of rural brewing depended on it. In tea terms, it works beautifully blended with something sweeter and lighter, chickweed, for instance, or dried violet leaves. But it absolutely holds its own solo. Start with less than you think you need. It's a plant that rewards restraint. 4. Red clover, Trifolium pratans. If you are new to this whole foraging for tea idea and you want to start somewhere that feels safe, approachable, and genuinely delicious before moving on to the more assertive flavors, red clover is your plant. This is forager tea with training wheels, and I mean that with the deepest affection. Red clover is one of the most widespread plants in North America. It grows in lawns, meadows, roadsides, gardens, basically anywhere that isn't a concrete parking lot. The flowers are what you want, and they are unmistakable. Round, globe-shaped pink to magenta blooms sitting atop long stems with the characteristic 3-part leaf below, usually marked with a pale chevron. The flowers brewed fresh or dried make a tea that is genuinely, honestly sweet. Not artificially sweet, not sweetened with honey sweet. Sweet in the way that good black tea made from young buds is sweet, where the sweetness comes from within the plant itself. There's a faint floral quality underneath, like you're drinking something adjacent to honey without the honey actually being there. Dry the blossoms in a single layer on a screen, or a piece of paper in a warm, well-ventilated spot out of direct sun. They'll be ready in about a week, fully dry, slightly papery, and a little darker in color. Stored in an airtight jar out of light, they'll last through winter. Brew them at full boil for about 5 minutes, and then taste what you've made and ask yourself why you've been spending money on chamomile. 5. Pineapple weed, Matricaria discoidea. This is the one. If you haven't encountered pineapple weed yet, stop reading right now, go outside, find a gravel path, or a packed dirt area near a parking lot or the edge of a driveway. Crouch down. Look for tiny little cone-shaped yellow-green flowers with no petals, just naked little domes. Pinch one and smell your fingers. Pineapple. Actual, unmistakable pineapple, with a layer of chamomile underneath. Pineapple weed is a close relative of chamomile, native to the Pacific Northwest, but now naturalized across most of North America. And it is one of the most extraordinary scent-flavor combinations in the plant world. It loves compacted soil and foot traffic. You'll find it at the edges of gravel paths, in the cracks of packed dirt, along driveway edges, and in high-traffic areas of lawn. The more you walk on it, the more it spreads, which is the kind of resilience strategy I respect enormously. The flower heads brewed as tea, fresh or dried, both work beautifully, make something that tastes like a much more interesting version of chamomile. There's the same calming, slightly apple-like quality that makes chamomile such a classic bedtime drink, but underneath it there's that unmistakable tropical top note, that pineapple sweetness, that makes the whole cup feel alive and surprising. It's chamomile that's been to the tropics and came back more interesting. Harvest the flower heads by running your fingers lightly over the tops of the plants. Ripe heads will come free easily. Brew them at around 200 degrees for 4 to 5 minutes, or let them cold infuse overnight for something lighter and even more delicate. And if you blend them with dried red clover blossoms, you will produce something so genuinely beautiful that you'll want to give it as a gift. 6. Violet leaves. Viola sororia and related species. Everyone knows violet flowers. Small, 5-petaled, purple to white, appearing in early spring and making people immediately romantic. What fewer people know is that the leaves of common violets, which continue to grow in dense, heart-shaped clumps long after the flowers have gone, are equally useful, slightly different in flavor, and available over a much longer harvest window. Violet leaves brewed as tea produce something green and faintly sweet with a subtle, almost creamy body. It's one of those infusions that's hard to describe because it's so gentle. There's no single flavor note that jumps out and announces itself. Instead, it's soft and rounded and somehow comforting, the way a light, high-quality green tea is comforting without having any one distinctive taste. What I notice most is the texture, a slight viscosity, a gentle smoothness on the palate that makes the cup feel almost lush. Violets are among the most identifiable plants for beginners. The heart-shaped leaves with scalloped edges and the distinctive 5-petaled spring flowers are hard to mistake for anything problematic. And they grow in lawns, woodland edges, garden borders, and shaded beds across essentially the entire eastern half of the United States, with various species present across the continent. For tea, harvest young leaves in spring and early summer before they get too large and tough. They can be used fresh or dried, though I find fresh violet leaf tea especially good as an iced drink in early summer. Cold brewed overnight, mixed with a little dried red clover for sweetness, poured over ice. This is not a compromised tea. This is a choice. 7. Lemon balm. Melissa officinalis. Technically, lemon balm is a cultivated herb, but I'm including it here because it has a well-earned reputation as one of the most aggressively spreading, enthusiastically self-seeding, persistently naturalized plants in American home gardens. If you've ever grown it once, you almost certainly have more of it than you want. If your neighbor has ever grown it and your fence line is permeable, you probably have some already. It escapes gardens, naturalizes in disturbed areas, and colonizes with the confident energy of a plant that knows it's useful. Lemon balm leaves smell like lemon without containing any actual lemon. It's a slightly deeper, greener, less sharp citrus than the fruit, more like lemon verbena than lemon juice, rounded and herbal rather than acidic. Brewed as a tea, it delivers that lemon note beautifully alongside a light, almost minty body from the mint family oils in the leaves. It's clean and bright and calming in a way that lavender is calming, not sedating, but settling. The flavor is best from young leaves before the plant flowers. Once it goes to flower, the leaves can get slightly tougher and more bitter, so harvest aggressively through spring and early summer. The good news is that aggressive harvesting keeps the plant from going to seed, which is the only thing standing between you and a complete takeover of your garden by lemon balm. Brew it fresh for the brightest lemon character, or dry it carefully, out of direct sunlight, which destroys the volatile oils responsible for that citrus note. For a slightly more muted, but still lovely cup, blended with pineapple weed, it's remarkable. Together they produce something tropical and light and gently sweet that makes zero sense for a drink made entirely from things growing in your backyard. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. And it's not really about weeds, even though it's definitely about weeds. There's a particular kind of attention that foraging asks of you. It requires you to look at the ground, to crouch down, to be in a specific place at a specific time of year, noticing a specific plant that you probably walked past every day for years without seeing. That kind of attention is increasingly rare and increasingly valuable, and it produces something that no amount of premium loose leaf, no matter how beautifully packaged or how storied the estate it came from, can give you. A direct relationship with the place where you live. Your yard has a particular microbiology, your soil has a particular mineral signature. Your chickweed grew in your specific combination of sunlight and shade and rainfall, and when you brew it and drink it, you are tasting that place. that is not something you can purchase. That is something you can only receive. The 7 plants we talked about today, cleavers, chickweed, ground ivy, red clover, pineapple weed, violet leaves, lemon balm, are not a hierarchy. They are not ranked by flavor or prestige. They are a palette. And how you blend them, when you harvest them, how you dry them and brew them and share them, is entirely yours. That's the point of a hyper-local pantry. It's yours in a way that a tin of imported tea never can be. One last thing before I let you go. Start with just one plant. Whichever one you can identify most confidently, whichever one you already know is growing somewhere in your yard or your neighborhood. Make 1 cup, sit with it. Don't reach for sugar or milk, and just let it be what it is. Then tell me in the comments what you tasted, because that's the part I genuinely love the most about this. Nobody's cup will taste exactly like anyone else's, and I want to hear what yours tasted like. That conversation between your garden and your cup and you in this community is exactly the kind of thing I started this channel to have. Go find your weeds, brew something beautiful. I'll see you next time.